Hello, my name is Adelene Cheong. Welcome to today's conversation and guided practice. That's important, the second part, the guided practice part. In today's topic that I'd like to share with you is on teaching and practicing restorative yoga online. So it's not unfamiliar that to most of you probably, especially if you're already here on Facebook with me or Instagram Live with me, you're familiar with using online medium for connecting with others, for communication, and maybe for consuming information as much as practicing yoga. So in today's session, I'm hoping to be able to share with you some of my experiences and learning curves in the last few months, few weeks of offering live stream restorative sessions, especially with restorative yoga, which requires lots of props, lots of attention to holding the space, and would really look forward to share this with you today. And it would be really interesting for me to know also, maybe if you want to type in your name, where you're from, whether you actually at the moment teach restorative yoga online. Maybe you have been practicing restorative yoga via this medium online, and how was your experience with it? Is there anything that you find really restrictive, or specifically compared to if this were to be in a studio versus at home, how is it different? And if there are anything that came up with for you and needed maybe some discussion. I may or may not have all the answers, but I'm most happy to share what I've been through and discuss this here online with you. So welcome. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Anne. Good to see you here. Alison. Yeah, Lisa. Hi. So the first thing about teaching online, before we even get into like the sequence, I know in a moment I'll probably hope to share with you also how to consider sequencing, props or theme. How can we potentially include and consider those things when we offer it via an online medium across screens, and how visible, how much we can actually weave in all these aspects of what we typically could offer in person in a studio. But firstly, I'd like to share with you my understanding and my experience all these years about restorative yoga, as in what is the definition to me, what does it mean to me, restorative yoga, what does those two words mean to me. Of course, all yoga is restorative. It's restorative as in it's healing, and it restores our energy and harmony within, and hopefully in every way that we approach our practice. But why restorative yoga? And my teacher said this restorative, as in with a big capital R, has a specific quality and attention and intention. It's really a relaxation practice to support conscious deep rest. So based on my experience, in short, if there's a short definition that I could just like a one-liner to anyone, would be, it is a relaxation practice to support conscious deep rest. And if I really kind of pick up the word relaxation here, because I said it's a relaxation practice. So what does relaxation mean? Relaxation, it's a physiologically measurable state of being. Let me dissect that a little bit. A lot of activities that we do can be very relaxing, and when we call that activity or that thing that we are engaging in relaxing, even that includes like cooking, or it's when it's the activity is able to move me from the state, the moment ago, the state that I was, where my heart rate is slightly higher, to a state where my heart rate is beginning to slow down. So measurably, relaxation is where the heart rate actually slows down. Breathing rate actually slowly, gradually slows down. There is also a special component here, especially with restorative practice, which is there is a decrease in muscular engagement and tone. So there's a release of engagement. Right? Physiology of relaxation also include blood pressure dropping, lowering of blood pressure. So those are the things that we could literally plug something on our body and be able to tell if that person or that person is, or that experience, the person's experience is moving from a high arousal or high sympathetic arousal to a state of parasympathetic dominance, which denotes that relaxation response is happening. There is a relaxation shift during that few moments of measurement from moment ago and now. And back to what we were saying earlier about restorative practice, as in from my understanding, and therefore that's how I teach it and how I therefore deliver and express it in class, is that it is a relaxation practice to support conscious deep rest. So firstly, know that whatever it takes, I'm thinking, okay, whatever it takes for me to be able to support the experience of my student in that moment, to potentially heart rate slows down, breathing rate slows down, relaxation in muscular engagement and tone, lowering of blood pressure therefore, and there is a gradual stillness, there's a undercurrent of stillness within that deep relaxation and rest state. So how do I achieve that? Yes, I would think of the same whether I'm teaching this in person or across screen. But more importantly, I'm also thinking, okay, in order to for the person to move from sympathetic arousal to a relaxation state, physical comfort is important. In fact, the big word like comfort is important, but physical comfort is definitely one. Mental and emotional comfort is huge, and some of you probably hopefully resonate with me that you can have like 10 blankets and 5 bolsters and lots of props, but if there is something just like bothering, or if I know that anytime someone might just barge into the room, kids might barge into the room when I'm lying down and all that, in itself it's really unsettling. That in itself can disturb my, like, despite 10 bolsters and 4 blankets that I have. So I'm really considering, how do I protect the space for myself to practice maybe, or to at least protect that space and offer that to the other person across the screen. And one of the things is to consider the environment for relaxation. So firstly, I would definitely consider preparation. Preparation as in from the first moment the student decided they're gonna sign up for this online restorative class. And from preparation, from the email, how easy it is for them to follow step by step in order to prepare for the class. So preparation includes literally the email confirmation itself to be clear enough that the student, okay, this is what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3. So there's not like 10 things that I'm not quite sure, what should I prepare for the class, am I gonna be equipped, do I have, is she gonna need me to have extra bolsters or pillow? So that level of concern in itself it's like it's impeding the process of relaxation, and the person might end up in front of the screen and just like agitated and waiting for like what are things that I might not have for the class. So preparation, getting the student prepared is important. So what I tend to do is I send out a confirmation email to them saying that, hey, you're gonna need one eye pillow, 3 blankets, a bolster, or a firm cushion. And of course, I might list those things. And in a moment, I'll mention also, I can list the whole list of like props that I would like them to have. But in preparation, also anticipating also that not everyone might have everything. So I'm gonna have to, when I demonstrate, be able to share how to modify the position with different furnitures and props. So that's just at the back of my mind. But at least at the beginning, I'm able to request the student as much as possible to prepare a couple of towels and blankets, so that they know, okay, I have those things that that's in preparation for the class, so I can be like, exhale. Okay. And preparation also, in my email, I'll often state and tell the student that please join the session 5 minutes before, so that it's not like they're rushing into a restorative online session, like, okay, on the dot, 4 o'clock it starts, and then 4 o'clock, 4:01, they might just about lock in. So that in itself allows people to be able to, oh, okay, I'm prepared and ready. And one of the things also in the email, I would state, please position your camera, angle the camera in a way that I can see your full mat space and some space around your mat, so that they already know in advance that, okay, the device is ready. It's just communication. As long as we have clear communication to help the student prepare mentally, so that emotionally they can be a little bit like calm when they arrive for your online class. So, and of course, I'll remind them also at the beginning of the class that if you would like some input from me, if you would like me to support you, or in a way to suggest any different positioning of the props, to position your camera in a way that I'm able to see you. Yeah, thank you, Adelene. Okay, so pause. How are we doing so far that I've talked about some preparation, advanced preparation in terms of getting the students mentally ready and prepared for it? If there's any specific things that came up from your teaching or from your practicing across the screen, you're most welcome to type it into the comment box, and I'll come back in a moment also to address those questions or discussions that might be helpful for everyone to know. So the other thing I do mention in my email is that please prepare a space. Yes, I said the camera, I said the props, and then I said please prepare the space in a way that you won't be interrupted, which means you're not going to be in the middle of your kitchen area or something where there might be other people coming in and out. That you are conscious that you want to be in a space that is not going to be interrupted, or probably also informing people in the household that please give me the next like hour or 45 minutes or so that I'll be practicing. I need my personal space, so that involving others in the house to know that you need that personal space and not to be interrupted. And that in itself, again, hopefully, at least I feel that myself when I inform people do not disturb just on the outside of the door. They know that I am having my personal time, and that not to enter, do not enter. So that gives me a little bit of mental like relaxation already at the beginning. And in terms of preparation, that's preparation for the students, but also preparation for me, preparation for me before I teach my online classes, each of my online classes, I do, for example, if I've prepared a sequence, I do go through the sequence and roughly know how to minimize in terms of transitioning and minimize a completely different set of props so that the transition is smoother. So this is probably true also in person teaching, restorative in person, in class and studio. That to consider what are the props that it could potentially link and sequence together so that there's minimal kind of interruption and complete change of position. So that's a little bit of sequencing that you might want to think about. Of course, the props intended. So usually, like even right now, I've already prepared the props behind me that potentially I'm going to be using for later, for our practice later. So that people already could see that roughly I have like 2 cushions, couple of blankets, there's a chair behind me, so that as I'm just introducing the class, people already anticipate, oh, okay, those are the few things that might be needed for our practice today. And yeah, and lots of rest before class and after class, because it's really stimulating to teach, especially those of you who teach. I hope you hear me, and that teaching is very vata stimulating. Just because we have to pay attention to, of course, the students, but at the same time pay attention to our energy, ourselves, demonstrating and then observing student, and then considering like holding space. And now added on to this, the devices and making sure that the lighting it's all right, that Wi-Fi, the internet, it's okay and it's running okay. So lots of other things potentially that it's constantly stimulating our attention to be able to deliver, to be able to share and teach, just for that like half an hour or 45 minutes. Yeah, so that's preparation for me. And consider also if it's possible to maybe have a co-host for your online class, which is really helpful. It's like having an assistant in your studio classes, where there is one other pair of eyes or maybe more that's scanning the room in case there are other people who needed attention or needed help. And if you are able to request or probably have energy exchange with your colleague also, and to invite your colleague to share the space and co-host a class with you, so that they can manage people who are arriving late from the waiting room, from Zoom waiting room, in case there are people who are needing specific attention, so that the co-host could actually private chat and talk to that person. If the person has any special needs, that can be attended to. Whereas if it's just me, myself, it's not impossible, but then I'll have to limit the capacity in order for me to have like literally capacity for me to be able to interact and hold a space and continue teaching at the same time. So that's really helpful, that I've experienced both when I teach by myself with limited capacity, versus when I'm teaching for my studio, where there is a host, and the host it's there to support any technical things or any students who needed attention. They could really just highlight it and send me a direct message, so that I don't need to spend a lot of time like reading list of injuries and conditions and things. That's really helpful. Okay, so that's that communication. Oh yeah, so at the beginning of the session, so I'm still on this topic of how to provide, or at least offer, an environment for the others, for your students to feel comfortable and safe to practice across the screen. especially when we are intending to deliver something which is such still, quiet, intimate, for us to shift from sympathetic arousal to parasympathetic arousal, which requires time, which requires a certain amount of feeling safe, feeling okay, safe, and that I can actually let go. So I'm talking about a moment ago also, and now still one or two more points that I want to make about how to support mental and emotional relaxation, at least that exhalation, in order for us to be able to hold a space to share, even before we talk about like the first pose, what we're going to be doing in the first pose and what this pose does. Okay, hi for those of you who are just joining. So as I said, one more thing that is helpful, I find it helpful, at least when I join an online class, especially with delivering restorative classes, is communication. Communication at the beginning of the class, where I will probably address the class at start, introducing the class, welcoming everyone, have a little bit of social, just ask everyone how they are, so that it's not just like me and talking to the screen, like you're just like another image in the screen, but really connecting to specific like person, or how are you from last week, from this week. So there's a little bit more in-person energetic support there for welcoming people into this space, this virtual space that we are sharing. And I also communicate at the beginning that during the session, practice session, that everyone will be mute. So I'll mute so on Zoom I use Zoom to teach. So I'm specifically referring to Zoom, that's why. But please do let me know if there are other platforms that you're using, and there are other limitation or things that you would like to discuss or share with me. So I would tell everyone that everyone's mic will be mute during practice, so that we don't have like 10-15 different ambience and living room sound from different living room, so that people know that okay, I'm in my own space. I won't like hear like 10 different things apart from Adelene's voice and guide and all. So that allows again me to mentally, just as a student on the other side of like the screen, mentally be able to exhale and like calm down. I would also mention that if there is any condition or anything that you needed my special attention, there is always a chat box that's available for me for you to privately send message to me, so that they feel that hopefully safe to be able to speak more privately, one-to-one, instead of like announcing that I'm like 5 weeks pregnant or 15 weeks pregnant, and I'm here announcing it to the whole like world as you join one online restorative class, and that can be helpful to support the students, again, emotional, mental comfort and relaxation, to be able to access the teacher privately. And in terms of communication at the beginning, I also would mention there will be opportunity to ask questions, to share any comments or observation at the end of the class, where then you can just unmute yourself, so that I know you're waiting to speak, to express, to talk. And people know that they are not just muted because I'm like enforced muting everyone across the screen and not interactive at all. So that is definitely available, and I offer myself as well to be available at the end for any questions at the end of the class. So how are we doing right now? Still like thinking about the preparation in order to safeguard mental and emotional relaxation, even before we talk about the first position. I will in a moment share, like literally would teach maybe a sequence of 2 positions, and share with you how I would demonstrate, and you can do it with me across the screen, so that you can have that experience of whether it's clear enough for you to follow, whether you feel safe and able to feel connected, inclusive across the screen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I highlighted here, prioritize comfort. And definitely consider sequencing. I mentioned a little bit about sequencing in terms of use of props. And of course, there's like a whole bigger topic that we can talk about sequencing. But yes, you can definitely consider your sequencing in advance, and also the theme, if you want to have an anatomical focus or a energetic focus, mental focus for that class. So all applies, all of those apply, and as with teaching in studio or across the screen online. And more importantly is keep it simple. Keep it simple. As long as I stay true to what I'm really attempting to deliver, to share here, is to offer an environment where relaxation response begins to kick in, where the student across the other side of the screen is able to exhale, is able to gradually over time notice their heart rate shifting, breathing rate slowing down. So that's really what I want to support. As much as, yes, it's fancy to have like supported shoulder stand and supported halasana, bridge pose and all. So saying that, then comes to actually teaching it and demonstrating it and using props to show what are things that could potentially be modified. So I'd like to put that into like practicality and demonstrate it now. What I'd like to move on from here is, say right now at the beginning of class, you arrive into the virtual room for practice, and what I'll say is, so I'm gonna demonstrate right now. Please watch carefully so that you know roughly what other things that you might need to improvise and to gather from your furniture, from your pillow or towel. And I'll show you how exactly the position looks like and feel like in the body before we start setting up. So watch carefully. So I encourage students to just observe without like starting to set up initially. So let me step back. So as you can see here already at the beginning, I want to make sure that the students is able to see my whole mat space. So right now, if I were to lie down horizontal from here, they'll be able to see from my feet to my head and how I potentially might support the rest of my body. And I'll say that the few things that we need today is we're gonna need a chair, or you can use your sofa. So orientate yourself if you're not already close to a sofa or the side of the bed. So position your mat, organize yourself in a way that you can put your legs on the chair or sofa. Okay, so that's that. And this is me speaking to you right now. Now, in anticipation, because, so let me say, I'm going to offer two positions now. One is Viparita Karani 1, which is instant Maui. So elevated legs on chair, followed by legs elevated Shavasana. So in thinking about those two positions in terms of sequencing and how I'm going to demonstrate and also prepare so that students has less fluff and arrangement, I would say, okay, now I'm gonna open up one blanket, because this essentially, I'm actually needing this only in the second pose in my Shavasana, but I already have the blanket opened up. And I would like this blanket to be opened up wider than double your body size. So this size times 2. So this would be the width of the shoulder. I'll say just this is for cushioning, and often I would tell the student that the reason for the prop, so that they're more willing to actually put put the prop like properly in positions where I would like. And it needs to be longer from your head to your buttocks because it's for cushioning our body. So I'm going to put this here for now. And in preparation, not immediately, it's for our second pose, I'll prepare a pillow. So this is an additional blanket, the second blanket, where on the short side, I'm going to halve it, not all the way, leave about 2 inches sticking out. So that 2 inches sticking out is going to support behind our shoulders, and this bit is for your neck and head. So I'll say that first, and then I'll leave it right at like the corner because it's for our second pose, not immediately. So we're still on now setting up Viparita Karani, which is our inversion. So as I'm setting up, I'm also mentioning contraindication. I'll say like this is an inversion, so for any reason, if going upside down, inverted, although it's a small inversion, if pressure start building up, it doesn't feel comfortable for you to stay, please do depart the pose or let me know so that I can modify it and suggest something else that is more nourishing for you. So here, either on a sofa or on a chair. I have a metal chair, that's why I'm cushioning it, but if you're using a sofa, you probably won't need this extra blanket here for cushioning. And I'm gonna have a bolster. So you can see, so this is how I would teach. So you can see that I have a wide bolster. So some bolster that you might have might be quite round. If it's quite a round, thick bolster, I would suggest, if you are able to bash it down and flatten it a bit, then maybe you could potentially use that. But instead of that, you might want to consider, instead of using a bolster, to use a stack of blanket. 1 or even 2 extra blankets so that it's a little bit more of a flat, wide support. So let me explain how I would like to support this position in terms of where we are supporting, where we are opening. To get into the position, I want to make sure my eye pillow is close by. And I have 2 spare cushions close by in case I need it. I'll show as an option, it's optional. So I'm sitting with the chair or the sofa behind, with my hip slightly behind the bolster. Lean forwards with the hand that's closer towards the center of your mat or your props. It's going to go under the outside armpit. I'm going to roll the pelvis onto the bolster and legs onto the chair or sofa. And once I lie here, the first thing to adjust is the back of your knee needs to be at the edge of the chair. So I'm just going to push this blanket away so you can see more clearly. So it's more important that the student is able to see, observe clearly. As you can see also that I want to make sure that they are able to see where my thigh is, where my knees are, rather than wearing a very baggy, loose clothing. So they can actually see the position. So you can see right now, the chair, the blanket, it's more hitting at the back of my thigh. No, no, no. We want it to be at the back of the knee. So I'm going to push the chair. Now I'm able to push this chair, but if you are you're using a sofa, you might need to move yourself away. So that the back of my knee, maybe a little bit this way. Yeah, there. So you can see the back of my knee is at the edge of the chair. And it's very important that the thigh bone is at a slant rather than a 90 degree vertical position. So we do want the thigh bone to be at a slant for both positions, this one and the next. The bolster supports the whole of my lower back, top half of my pelvis, my buttock is slightly hanging off from the other end, which helps to open my lower belly organs. So my belly button here, lower belly organs are slightly hanging off, upper belly organs are lifted, lower lungs lifted on the bolster, upper lungs hanging off from the bolster. Straighten up the neck and head and arrange the eye pillow across the eyes. Optional, if you have extra pillow around, you can just put the
pillow, one on each side, ideally of the same size and height on either side to support your hand, which is really nice for the shoulders. And throw a blanket over your body, cover up, and there you go. So this is your first position. Hold it there. Do not get too excited and get in first. Let me just quickly complete the second position, then we can have a seamless transition. So that's exactly how I would tell my students also. So I'll say, okay, from here, when you're ready to depart, which I'll ring the bell and let you know when it's half time, you bend your knees, shift the bolster out to one side. Still going to use the chair exactly the same, back of your knee supported, thighs at an angle. Pull in the blanket pillow from before. So you have the 2 inches behind the shoulder, and the other piece come right down to the base of my neck. And from here, I'm gonna pick up one layer down. This is the first layer, second layer, and third layer behind me now. One layer at a time. I'm gonna tuck myself tuck the blanket under. So I'm gonna roll the blanket to hug either side of my neck. The reason that the function of this blanket is really to make a bowl for my neck, head, and shoulder. And this third piece is to make a bowl for my body, for my pelvis, buttocks, my trunk. Just gonna use up all the blanket. And then put on an eye pillow, cover up with a layer of blanket, and same just like before. If it's helpful and you have extra just cushion on either side, just rest your hand on the cushion on either side that way. Armpit space open. So there you have it, where the thigh bone, it's at an angle, right? I've explained that, and I will remind them when they're setting up. So when you come out from this position, bend your knees, roll over to your side to come out. So from that demonstration, is there any question? Maybe if anyone has any question, you can type it into the comment box. If otherwise, let's have a go, and I'll talk you through, and that's literally how I would talk my students through across the screen that way, once I've demonstrated. And I'll also just sit to the side for a little bit and keep the setup there for the student to be able to have a reference. So let's set up now. So this is how I tell my students. So let's set up now. Have one layer of blanket open up so that it cushions your body. It needs to be wider, like twice the width of your body. So that's how I teach my Shavasana generally, because I like this cushioning bowl around the body. And prepare a pillow with your blanket with 2 inches sticking out. Of course, with these props, I've already in my email informed that we are gonna need 3 blankets and a bolster or a firm cushion that you have. A bolster that is wide, or a stack of blanket that you have, and a chair or a sofa. So this way is where we're going to be starting with our first position, with your eye pillow close by, and if you have extra pillows. So as the student's setting up, I'm also like showing, allowing this full screen of the setup, so that the student have a chance to take a look, copy, and replicate, improvise if they need to use a pillow, a firm cushion, extra towel to set up. So you're most welcome to set up. I mean, we may not get to stay for the whole time, at least during this session, but
just to allow me to guide you through and also observe the transition between the two positions if you would like to. So I would say there is a bolster that supports your lower back, the whole of your lower back, and the top half of your pelvis. So position yourself. And at the same time, now that I've demonstrated, I'm back near the screen, I'm able to see their setup. I'm able to then also give specific adjustments, like verbal adjustments as to, okay, Tracy, please move your blanket a little bit lower here, or a little bit thicker blanket under the head. Okay. To get into the position, I'll guide them again from the side. Kneel from the side with the chair behind you. One arm that's closer towards the center of the mat goes under the outside armpit as you roll the pelvis onto the bolster, legs onto the sofa or your chair. Back of your knees at the edge of the chair. Adjusting that, then adjusting the pillow behind you, so the lower back pillow behind you. And I begin to even slow down now because it takes time for them to get into the position and just noticing how the lower belly is open. So I orientate them in terms of how to get the shape that I want. Where the belly button, anything above the belly button is lifted and open, anything below the belly button is slightly hanging off. So I explain to them the effect of it rather than like just following exactly the prop, so that they can replicate the experience of, depends on the props they have and depends on the size of the body, right? And the top lungs, bottom lungs, as I mentioned, and then I say straighten up your head and neck, put on your eye pillow, cover up with a layer of blanket. When I say this sequentially, piece by piece, that way, the student doesn't need to memorize and think. Like that requires brain power. That takes like mental relaxation out. And I want to take that mental aspect of having to like remember every step of setting up. So then I just go slow and I repeat. I say, remember the bolster position and eye pillow, less weight on the eyelids, most of the weight on the forehead, on the bones. Yeah. Then I mentioned again, how are you comfortable? How can you make this a little bit more comfortable? Adjusting your clothing, your blanket. So really prioritizing, as much as the alignment was important, which I've mentioned. I can also again remind them, just checking that your thighs are at an angle, and I can see across the screen if anyone needed special attention. And then I'll also mention that that's it. All you need to do now is just receive the pose, and I'll be taking care of the timing for you. I'll ring the bell when it's time to come out from the position. And you already know what's coming next. You already know, people like to know what's coming up, what's coming next, so that they have that anticipation and somewhat control, illusion of control. And therefore, I'd say, so the next position we already know, it's legs elevated Shavasan, which I'll ring the bell to let you know when it's half time. Should you choose to change? Should you choose to move on? And that's really it. That's really it for the first pose. Let me take a read if there are any questions. Yeah. Would you lie down on the side in between? Would you lie down on the side in between? I don't understand that question, or I guess there's no need. The spine will neutralize in Shavasana. Yeah. So you mean transitioning from Viparita Karani to legs elevated Shavasana? Yeah, so I don't really need to move out from that position. It's symmetrical into another symmetrical position. unless there's a specific reason that you like to do a little bit of transition movement, then maybe yes. Okay. And there is a question here. I know I haven't transitioned you into your legs elevated Shavasana, but let me just read one more question here. If the student completely cannot get the layout, do you persevere? How long do you allow the students to get in the correct position? Thank you, Lucy, for asking. I'm really thinking about your question now. I persevere in terms, it also depends if the students are, like if I try 2 things, 3 things, and they're not able to get it, then I might suggest something else, make it simpler even for that person. Maybe it's headspace, maybe it's just in that moment, right? But yeah, I do emphasize that this position is about opening the upper and lower lung. Whether you're using a pillow or a towel or 2 blankets or a bolster, make it happen. And if it means that it's just like a folded up, two folded up jumper or sweatshirt that you have, yeah, to fold up and put it behind you, do you feel the upper lungs and lower lungs opening? Do you feel the abdomen, upper lower abdomen opening? Yeah, that's what I would orientate them to pay attention to get the correct position. Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Yeah. Okay. So from there, legs elevated Shavasana. After quiet for some time, then I would ring the bell, and I would invite the students to come back to their breath to consider a transition. So instead of say it's time to change position, bend your knees, roll over, it's really important to me in terms of timing. It has to be at the student's own pace as they move, even if that means it's within a window of few seconds. That has to be initiated by the student's readiness to be able to come out during that time. So especially those of you who have been to my classes, if not, please do come and join me in some of my classes, and maybe then you can give me a little bit more feedback as to how you experience the classes. Often I would say in the next few moments, when you feel ready to move on, when you are ready to move on, which means in the next few moments could be like the next second for this person, could be 5 seconds later for the other person. So it's totally at your own pace as you are making that shift or transition to depart the pose. So from here, we're going to move into legs elevated Shavasana. So taking your time, you already know the position, and I already have the setup here for you to have reference. So I would say that, so that mentally, not about the pose yet, mentally, that they are, they can exhale. They know that, oh, okay, yeah, I have the reference. It's going to be across the screen. I can see it. And I also mentioned that I'll guide you through step by step. You don't need to remember everything. You just have to have a rough visual of what it roughly entails. Then I can guide you to setup. So obviously during that in-between time, I would have this removed. I would put this in, so that by the time they transition, this would be the next thing that they see, and able to just orientate themselves to set up into their next position without too much explanation, talking, and attention. attention on the screen takes people really out of their like relaxation, and I'm offering a sequence to get them into like quieter, right? So then I would say, okay, legs elevated, Shavasana, back of your knees, same thing. I'll repeat a few alignment points to remind them. Back of your knees at the edge of the sofa or chair. If you're doing this, you can do like literally follow through, making sure that your thigh is at an angle. Pull in your pillow from behind you that we have prepared. Slip it under behind your shoulders, 2 inches behind your shoulders. And remember that this blanket that I showed, like first layer, second layer, the third layer, the reason for that is really to make a bowl and cradle for your neck, head, shoulder, and body. So turning the edges of the blanket under, and sometimes I might just turn myself around and do this, right? So turning the blanket under so that you can roll it around and cradle around the head, around the shoulders. And then the third layer is the layer along your body. Can you tuck yourself in, make a deep bowl to support the body so that the body feels like it's being hugged and cradled and contained, which there are other physical things that we can talk about, but just for now, before getting into like dissecting the pose too much, but as much as the student needs to know, but as little that is not taking them out of the relaxation. Pull up the blanket, put on your eye cover, so that again, they don't need to, oh, did I miss out something there? So there's no need for them to like mentally re-engage with remembering and what they're missing, and then get anxious about what they have missed. That I'm actually reminding them step by step. Put on the eye pillow, cover up with a layer of blanket, and then maybe pillow to support your hands if that's helpful, and settle into your legs elevated Shavasana. Yeah. And then I wait, quiet, and I quiet, and I continue to observe. So what I do is when students are in the position, I will look through each of the setup and screen, and I'll type in private messages to the students to say that, okay, next time maybe you could try having the pillow under your hand to be a little bit further out, further in, closer in. Consider having a slightly lower chair or sofa for your lower legs. Next time, try it. See how that feels in your body. So then there is an opportunity for me to have that education point for the student also, so that when they come back around to the screen, there are some private messages for them to read and take home. Already at home, so for them to take away from the session. What else? Yeah, so that's really it. Of course, then I bring them back. Same way, I ring the bell and then I invite them. I often would also say that you're already at home, you're already in your own personal space, comfortable space. If you feel you need a little bit more time, horizontal, stay, feel free to hang out there and rest. Otherwise, just bend your knees, roll over to your side to come up to sitting, right? And then I would say that if there is anything that you would like to share, that you have observed and shared and would like to ask question, you can unmute yourself so that I know that you're waiting to speak. Then I'll get a little bit of talking going at the end of class, so that students have a chance to feel like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm able to ask question. I wasn't feeling too comfortable. There is still that level of support, although across the screen. And this is exactly the same when we are teaching in person in a studio, that there will be some students who immediately roll up their mat and off they go, and there'll be like always a couple of students who would stay back and have question and ask about like, okay, it didn't quite work for my head, or wow, it really worked for my neck, and what happens there, and they want to express themselves, and that's part of human and connection that is important. So yeah, so just allowing that similar experience and setting although across the screen. And yeah, that's really what I wanted to share with you, how I would organize my restorative class online so far, especially when it's live stream, it's not pre-recorded, that a lot of things will have to just be like, okay, what's happening across the other side of the screen, and let's work it out. Do you have any comments, questions? Or those of you who was just transitioning from the two positions, how was your experience in terms of the sequence, in terms of the setup? Was it clear enough for you to, enough information but not too much information, so that it doesn't get into the cognitive too much? Which of course, if someone it's really wanting to study the pose and on a training, on an intensive, then there's a lot more details about why the angle of the thighs, why the cradle of the head, etc., etc. Yeah, doing this yoga asana twice a day will help. Well, as much as you can manage, as much as you need. It's more like I see this as it's something that we need to nourish and feed ourselves every day. And therefore, especially if you're hungry, if you're feeling hungry, then do feed yourself, do like nourish and feed yourself. And more importantly, it's just consistency every day, a small dose of it. It's not like, it doesn't need to be 1 full hour or something if you're specifically asking about how often. 20 minutes a day. Yeah. Jenny said, love practicing with you from home. I don't teach restorative, but sometimes I like to finish a hatha class with a restorative pose. Yes, thank you for saying that, Jenny. Definitely, yes, you can definitely include your restorative practice at the end of a movement-based class. And yes, just like say, you can just demonstrate across the screen, and as you demonstrate, explain like why the props, and therefore improvise. Now that you see what I'm attempting here, could you use a pillow? Can you find a pillow or a stack of towel to recreate this experience where you can have your belly open, your lungs and your shoulders this way, your head, neck this way? Yes, Fern, I'm here on Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, but these sessions are recorded, so you can always watch it again. It's on my YouTube channel, so after this I'm gonna upload it on my YouTube channel, so you won't miss anything. Nothing is missing. Okay, do we have any other concerns, questions about teaching, sharing restorative yoga across the screen? Another great opportunity that you can potentially join me in observing, as you participate, observing the whole class, how I would deliver a whole class. Yeah, Lucy, this Friday evening's class, I was just gonna say, it's to, if you'd like to experience the whole class, the whole hour of restorative yoga, and in terms of sequencing and how I would deliver the class, do join me. This Friday evenings is I call it restorative hour. It's 6 to 7 o'clock, one-off event. It's a charity event hosted by the Hope Foundation. You can find the information on my link, on my bio link, or on my website, where it says restorative hour, where it says charity event hosted by the Hope Foundation, which is a really precious, beautiful foundation that supports children on the streets, children in Calcutta in India, and many more great things that they're doing. So please do join me this Friday evening. Otherwise, there are also my online classes on Tuesdays and Fridays, Monday, Tuesdays and Fridays, which you can find on my website online schedule. So do come along and experience it yourself. That's the best thing that I could offer. Namaste. Thank you again for joining me. Namaste, namaste. Enjoy the rest of your day. Sorry, Lucy, I was just saying Friday class, evening class is not recorded. It's a live stream class. So yeah, I hope you can join me. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, everyone.